This means for our great-grandchildren. And this new generation, what I feel in my practice is that they are more aware of the concept of sustainability. This means we don't have to think only from the short-term perspective, what is needed now, but we have to think a much more strategic way. Many companies believe that or act as they believe that the most important aspect are economic aspect of business. And these economic aspects are always supported by people. So what I've seen, I feel that this misunderstanding of companies that they do not recognize the human aspect of business is lack of awareness in a way that...
Hi, Bruno. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspective, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. Now, as an international business consultant, international speaker, and a business coach, I have to start out by asking, what does peak performance mean to you?
This is a very interesting question. I have to say that peak performance, in my opinion, has to be to do what you love, to do what you're passionate about, and do in the best way possible, but do in a way that you can overcome any challenges that come through your way. And for example, you don't give up. So peak performance is not only about doing the best, but also doing the best when things are not the best. So this means that when circumstances are challenging, when circumstances are not the ideal ones, you have to keep on going. It's about resistance, it's about resilience, it's about persistence, and it's about overcoming challenges and learning from these challenges.
Some of those things, we all know we need to do them, but we just don't know how to. We don't know how to be persistent in times. We don't know how to be resilient in times. In your example, in your life, having worked with so many clients, what do you think are some first steps we can take towards building up this persistence and resilience?
Very important. Many people wait for motivation to take action. And I will say to these people, take action and motivation will ensue. So when you take action, very small steps, motivation tends to build up. You cannot get motivation by being still, by being quiet. So you can only get motivation when you start taking small steps and you see some small wins, some small little outcomes that are in some cases very motivating for you to go forward. But if you stay still, waiting for you to be utterly motivated, this won't happen. You have to parent yourself into action. You have to force yourself into action and take a very small step, and this small step will build up into bigger step, and this will build up your motivation. So many people wait for motivation to come, and motivation, in my experience, 30-year experience as a consultant and advisor, come from action, very small action. Many people will ask, what is the takeaway from this? What is the smallest step that I can take toward my dreams? What is the smallest step that I can take today, not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow? And this will bring about action, and this will bring about more motivation and more action. It's a positive cycle.
You wrote bestseller book, Art of Compassionate Business, which is read over many countries, and we're going to discuss that here in a minute. But before getting started, what were the gaps that you saw in the world of business that made you want to write this book?
What I see, currently see, and I saw in the past, is that many workplaces are full of fear. They can be very effective. They tend to be productive in many cases, but they're full of fear. People are fearful of being fired, fearful of making mistakes, fearful of, for example, trying new things, fearful in some cases of colleagues outpacing them. And when you are fearful, you don't tend to be innovative. You don't tend to be very productive. You don't tend to be creative. You don't tend to be cooperative. And what I saw that many companies focus on very important objectives like key performance indicators such as profitability, productivity, efficiency, which are very important, but they forget to build up a psychologically safe workplace. Means a place where people can feel at ease. They do not feel stressed. They feel supported by one another, and they feel that they can behave in a kind and cooperative way. In these workplaces, according to research, when they are supporting one another, in these workplaces, people are more satisfied. Employees are more satisfied. Customers are more satisfied. Why? Because employees that are satisfied tend to serve customers much more effectively, but also there is lower absenteeism. There is lower stress levels, and there is lower turnover. And this brings about more positive outcomes, more profits, more sales, more market share. So this means that I observe that many companies tend to focus what I call quantitative aspect of business, what can be measured, what can be counted, such as profit, market share, productivity, but they forget the qualitative aspect of business, what cannot be measured very precisely. For example, camaraderie, support, compassion, and this can apply to the workplace, but also this can be applied also to other stakeholders, such as customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. My research is based on this, to build up these principles within a company and in relation to external stakeholders so that company can be both profitable with important market share, with big amount of sales, but also human-oriented. This means building a strong, long-lasting relationship with different stakeholders, with employees within the workplace, but also with customers, suppliers, business partners, community members, and others.
In your book, you advocate for human-oriented enterprise. What do you think has been the main barrier to this mindset from becoming mainstream? Because it seems like it should be the default.
Many people believe that in business, the most important resource is artificial intelligence or technology or funds or information. But according to my research, according to my long experience as a consultant advisor, the most important resource in any company is the human being. The human being is a meta resource. It's a resource that can generate other resources. The human being can generate business plans, can generate innovative products, innovative services, new systems, new processes, new policies. So this means that when we focus on fostering the most important resource that is the human being, how? By building a strong, long-lasting relationship with all the participants of this relationship win. Nobody wins at the expense of others. When you build this robust relationship with stakeholders, companies tend to succeed spontaneously, effortlessly, without any effort. Why? Because all these human beings, customers, suppliers, employees, are on the company side. They are not against the company. They are cooperating with this company in a very unconditional way. Instead, when you focus only on this quantitative aspect of business, for example, profit, market share, and you do this in a very exclusive way, in some cases you tend to achieve this indicator by all means. For example, exploiting employees. For example, deceiving customers. For example, polluting the environment. And when you act this way, in an unethical way, in a non-compassionate way, what do you expect? That this stakeholder will support your company, that customer will come back to your company if you deceive them, if employees will stay in your company if you are exploiting them. You expect that the community member will support you if you are polluting the environment? No, of course not. They will be against you. So we have to understand that in business, everything is interdependent. This means that you cannot succeed without human beings. You cannot succeed without employees. You cannot succeed without customers, without community members, without suppliers. So wouldn't it be nice to have a very wise approach and build robust relationship with all these stakeholders that we are depending on as a business? So when you build this strong relationship with stakeholders and you satisfy these needs, these stakeholders are more prone to reciprocate, to support your company, to assist you when you need them. Instead, when you think about only your own objectives, profit, market share, and productivity, you are self-centered as a company, and you don't care about the stakeholders' needs, these stakeholders tend to withdraw, tend not to cooperate, and you need them. So it's better to build this strong relationship with these stakeholders.
Most companies still prioritize profit over people. So how can a leader listening to this learn how to balance compassion with the need of profitability?
Yes, let's give a few examples. Profit don't come from the sky, don't come out of the blue, come from customer buying products that these customers are satisfied. And these customers are generally served by employees that are working for the company. So let's talk about these two stakeholders, customer and employees. If you treat employees in the best way possible, paying a good salary, but also appreciating them. So this means not taking their contribution for granted. For example, writing a thank you note when they reach a deadline or they went through a milestone successfully. These employees will tend to go the extra mile, will try to work more in an unconditional way, will try to support the company, especially during challenging times. So this means that you will have this important stakeholder, that is the employee, on your side. This employee, if he's happy, according to research, will tend to serve customer much better. Why? Because employee that is happy tend to make customer happy too. Employees that is unhappy tend to make customer unhappy. But also let's talk about customer. When you are also thinking about your company, profit. You try to get as much profit as possible without caring about customer. And in some cases, you offer customer product that they don't like or they don't need. This customer, you might get away with this once, but this customer, when they realize that they have been deceived and manipulated, might write some negative reviews online, might push other potential customer away, and might not come to your company back. Why? Because they feel that you didn't treat them well, you didn't consider their needs. They are the one paying you for your products, so they need to be considered with kindness, with appreciation. You have to focus on their needs, not your own needs, because at the end, you become profitable by satisfying their needs. So when companies don't have a customer orientation and focus only on profit, these customers tend to leave lots of negative reviews that not only push other customers away, but also affect the company's image, affect the company's reputation in a negative way. And according to research and according to my experience, when the company reputation is tainted, when it's affected negatively, this push potential investor away, push talented people away from working from this company because nobody wants to work for a company that has bad reputation. And customers tend not to buy from this company. Why? Because they're prone to feel that they will be deceived or they will be manipulated. So this means that acting in benefit of everyone involved in a transaction, this means employees, customers, but also community members, the environment, is beneficial not only for this stakeholder, but also for the company. Because when the company acts in the correct way, in a kind way, in a compassionate way, these employees tend to reciprocate. There is a very important law in social psychology that is the of reciprocity. When you treat people in a kind way, in a compassionate way, they tend to respond alike. When you manipulate them, when you try to dominate them, when you try to take advantage of them, they tend to withdraw. They tend not to cooperate, or they tend to behave in an aggressive way toward you. So this means that it's important to build strong relationship with this stakeholder, because at the end, they are the one contributing to your company's sales and to your company's profits. Remember the concept of interdependence. You cannot get profit, you cannot get sales without customers, without employees, without suppliers. You need all of them on your side, not against you. You don't want them as enemies. You want them as contributors, stakeholders that cooperate with your company.
How do you respond to critics who argue that compassion and empathy within a business makes it vulnerable and less competitive?
We have to understand that we are all vulnerable, and we are human beings, so we are vulnerable by nature. Nothing wrong about vulnerability, but many people believe that they're not vulnerable, that this probably is a mistake. We are all vulnerable, and we are all human beings. We are flesh and bone human beings that we have challenges, we have positive experiences, we have negative experiences, we have fears, we have expectation, aspiration. This happens not only with a customer, but happen with the CEO, with any employee working for the company, suppliers, because what we have in common that we are all human beings, that we go through this human experience. So in practice, when you connect on a human level with different stakeholders and recognize this commonality that we are all human beings, and we treat this stakeholder in a much more humane way, you tend to connect much more deeply, and the relationship tend to be much more robust. Why? Because what I observe in business that people tend to focus on the differences. For example, within a company, they focus on the different roles, which are important for hierarchy. This is the CEO, this is the marketing manager. But at the end, all of the roles within a company are important, because if one of these roles is missing, the company is unlikely to succeed. So all people in a company are important, and all people have different functions, different responsibility, but they're all important. All stakeholders are important too. So in practice, focusing on the human aspect implies that understand that people have different needs. They don't have only economic needs. What I observe that in business, most owners and most CEOs focus on the economic needs. What are the economic needs? For example, employee, they say, oh, I'm paying a good salary to this employee. This is not enough to keep this employee satisfied. Employees have economic needs, they have emotional needs, they need to be appreciated, they need to be validated, they need to be treated in a kind and respectful way, they need not to be taken for granted, but also they have mental needs. For example, they need to be stimulated. I observed the other day that I went to a factory, an employee that was hammering a nail 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day, this employee was bored to death. How you can expect this employee to be motivated if this employee was doing the same task? Companies can satisfy the need for mental stimulation by providing this employee with novel project, new project, or making this employee go through job rotation. For example, working 1 month in the marketing department, another month in the production department, another month in the administrative department, so that they have a much more overarching view of the company. But also employees have social needs. In many cases, companies bring about projects that are only focused on a few individuals, or they're undertaking an individual level. But I feel that the most successful projects tend to be collective, where each employee can contribute with their own skills, their expertise, and also people from different departments can give their views on a project. Why this is so important? Because this is satisfying employees' social needs. So this can apply to other stakeholders like customers or suppliers, but this is important because we have a much broader view of the stakeholder, in this case employees, that is not only focused on economic aspect, but emotional aspect, mental aspect, and social aspect. So this means that you have to consider the whole human being. I observe many companies that people cannot talk about their own emotions. Why? Because the CEOs and the managers believe that the emotions are disruptive for productivity. But when you don't talk about your own emotions, especially challenging one like fear or sadness, these emotions don't go away. They tend to be repressed or suppressed, and they might come up in unexpected ways. Instead, I saw some consultancy companies that have counseling services for employees. This means that employees, if they feel disturbed emotionally speaking, they can talk to a professional. They can provide them with some guidance. And this professional is paid by the company. Why? Because they understand that employees' emotional and mental health is important, not only for this employee, but for this employee to be productive, creative, innovative.
So in what ways can a business measure the success of their compassionate practices beyond financial metrics?
Yes, this is very difficult to measure, but what we can say that there are two main aspects. The one that can be measured precisely, that are profit, market share, and others, productivity, and the one that cannot be measured precisely, but can be felt. There is a famous thinker that observed, not everything that counts can be counted, but not everything that can be counted counts. So this means that in some cases, things that cannot be counted count really. They are very important. And so what we can say is that, for example, to measure how employees feel, there are some surveys about employee satisfaction that can be used. They give you some indication about the employees' feelings, emotions, things that are not going well, things that can be improved. In some cases, companies use suggestion boxes for employees to give some ideas, provide with some ideas so that the company can improve. In some cases, companies have open door policies. So employees have a problem, they don't have to send an email to the superior and the superior to the other superior and so on. There is direct communication. And in some cases, companies, what they do, they have what we call social meetings where employees from any type of role and any type of responsibility can meet with one another, let's say once a week, to talk about non-business topics and to know each other on a much more personal level. This means they can talk about their hobbies, their family, problems at home, and so on. They can go have a dinner, for example, after work. And research shows that this type of social meetings are revitalizing. When employees go back to work, they're transformed in a very alt way. Why? Because they don't see their colleagues only as, they see these colleagues as human beings, and they can connect to one another in a much more cooperative, meaningful way. And they can support each other if necessary. Because at the end, what is compassion? Compassion is understanding how people think, understanding how people feel, and try to support them when possible. This could happen to anyone. Everyone has problems in life and at work and outside work. And if you have a problem, you expect that someone will support you. And you see someone that has a challenge, if you are acting in a compassionate way, you are more likely to support them. So if you are aware that there are people that could have some problems. And research shows that when people act in a compassionate way in the workplace, people that are supported see themselves in a much more positive way. Why? Because they feel supported by others. When people treat others in a supportive way, in a compassionate way, they can soothe them. They can make them feel better. But also these employees that have been treated in a compassionate way, according to research, that the workplace is very positive. It's very compassionate. And also they feel that the whole company has a positive approach on the employees. So this means that being compassionate also contribute to the development of a positive image of the workplace and the company in general.
How should compassionate businesses handle stakeholders who exploit customers or partners who are taking advantage of this goodwill?
So can you repeat the question again?
If I'm a compassionate business that I'm caring about all these things, how can I protect myself from stakeholders who are trying to exploit the kindness that we're showing, or even customers or partners who are just trying to take advantage of goodwill that we're putting out?
Okay. But what happened is you have to take the initiative, because if you act in a too cautious way, for example, and you act in let's say, conservative way, not connecting to others and so on, because you have fear of being deceived or manipulated, you are creating a negative cycle. Because of the principle of social reciprocity, people tend to act alike in the way that you act. If you treat them in a kind way, they are very prone, according to research, to act in a kind way to you. They tend to they feel indebted to you. This means that when you treat them in a kind, supportive way, you generate a positive cycle of reciprocity. And people feel supported, they feel indebted with you, and they will try to contribute to you whenever possible, or contribute to others. When people are generous, they bring about a positive cycle of generosity. When people are, according to are thankful to others, they bring about not only this person that you have been thankful to will act in a thankful way with others, but also this bring about a positive example. So you are setting up about a positive example in the workplace, but also you are bringing about a positive cycle of reciprocity. Instead, when you act in a fearful way, because you say, oh, how can I think that they won't try to deceive me, or maybe that they're trying to manipulate me? This is based on fear. And when you are fearful, you are acting based on the freeze-fly mode, and you tend to act in a non-connected way, and you tend to act in a reactive way. And this brings about treatment that is cold with others, and these people tend to respond in the similar way. Instead, when you are taking the first step, being kind, being compassionate, you are more prone to bring about a positive cycle of reciprocity and much stronger relationship, because fear is contagious, but also kindness is contagious, and generosity and thankfulness is contagious. Generosity and thankfulness generate more generosity and thankfulness, but fear also generates more fear in the workplace. There is a very interesting term coined by Daniel Goleman that is emotional contagion. Emotional contagion is when you feel an emotion and you start talking to another person, and this person tends to pick up your emotion and tend to feel the same emotion. If you are fearful and you say, I think that this person will manipulate me, this person might pick up this emotion and might act in a fearful way too, and in a defensive way too. So this means that you have to take the initiative. Do you have to be the CEO? Do you have to be the manager? Wherever you work in a company, you can take the initiative. Even if you are the one cleaning the bathroom in a company, or you are the one serving customer, or whatever role you have, you can always bring about positive ripple effects. Why? Because the change starts very small, but they make the whole company. Can start, for an example, from the customer service department and then spread all over the company. But a fear also spreads very quickly. And imagine, for example, a boss that comes to the workplace and is very angry. We have seen these bosses very frequently here in the UK, and start shouting at people, and start shouting in some cases without any motive, without any reason. And what happened? Would you expect that this employee will feel happy after all this nagging? No. The employee will feel fearful, will feel despondent, will feel that they're not doing the best, and so on, will feel demotivated. Instead, imagine the opposite scenario. The boss can very kind, smile at people, smile is contagious too, treat people like family, some people, I saw some bosses that are very amicable, try to motivate people in a kind way, and also try to ask for opinions. What do you think about this? They are not the bosses that know it all type, but bosses that are open, humble, open-minded, and try to relate to employees at the same level, regardless of the hierarchy. This type of workplace will be pervaded with positive emotion, and these people tend to be much more motivated, because positive emotion, what happens? According to research, tend to bring about much more productivity, much more innovation, much more creativity, much more cooperation, much more trust. Instead, what we call constrictive emotions such as fear or anger or sadness tend to bring about the opposite. Lack of cooperation, distrust, In some cases, people are treated in a non-compassionate way, or in some cases in an aggressive way. So we want to bring about the best of people working in this workplace, but we cannot force them to cooperate. They will cooperate spontaneously when we treat them as human beings as they are, and when we address these legitimate needs that they have, like emotional needs, economic needs, mental needs, and social needs.
Someone who has worked for over 30 years with many generations of people, how do you think and Gen Z's influence this trend of compassionate business?
I feel that millennials and new generation are more aware of changes, of the shifts that we see that are much swifter than in the past. And these millennials have also a much more social view. They are much more aware of the environmental changes that we see, global warming and so on. And also we see that this generation are trying to, in many cases, trying to bring about a better world. So I feel that this new generation, as compared with the older generation, are much more aware of the principle of interdependence. This means that everyone counts, and everything that you do counts, even a small action counts. So this means that you see many people in this new generation that are contributing to social projects, making some donation to foundations, and also in some cases they are very picky. They're not only looking for a job, but they're looking for a job within a company that contribute to the world in a positive way. For example, a company that does not pollute the environment, a company that, for example, can bring about some activity related to volunteering, or company that are recycling or using recyclable material, or company that are using green processes, or they are donating resources to communities. So this new generation, I feel that are more aware that we need to bring about a better world, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. This means for our great-grandchildren. And this new generation, what I feel in my practice is that they are more aware of the concept of sustainability. This means we don't have to think only from the short-term perspective, what is needed now, but we have to think a much more strategic way. Let's try to bring about a business that not only generates profits, but a business that also bring about a positive social impact. For example, as we mentioned, satisfying the need of each stakeholders, customers, suppliers, business partners, employees, community members, and others, but also they bring about a better world, a better environment. From the ecological perspective, from the green perspective, means bringing about positive impact on the environment through recycling, through green processes, and others.
With the recent rise of automation, how can companies maintain a human-oriented approach in this increasingly tech-driven environments?
AI, many believe that is the most important resource in the company, and I want to contradict these people. The most important resource still is, and probably for many decades will be, the human being, because AI was created by the human being. So the idea is that it wasn't created out of the blue in a movie. It was created by a human being and was perfected and used by human being. So this means that any technological tool can be used for good or for bad. AI won't get rid of people, but AI probably generate employment in a different way. But the integration between technology and the human being is key. This means if you only use AI and you forget the human beingness, many stakeholders might be dissatisfied because your treatment of these stakeholders, how you treat them, will be impersonal. And stakeholders always, regardless of AI or any other technological advancement, want to feel human, want to be treated by people. So to companies that are using AI extensively, I will say, keep on using this technology that could be very useful and valuable, but do not forget to introduce, alongside the use of AI, the human contact. For example, if you are resolving to contact customers through AI bots, okay, give the opportunity for customers that they don't like this AI bots to have a telephone call, a telephone conversation with you, and this will be a human conversation, not a conversation with a robot. Why? Because if you use technology and you cut off completely the human contact, this company will become impersonal. And companies that succeed act in the opposite way. They price their relationship. They customize their product. They treat each customer as if they were unique, because they are unique. And if you use this technology and become too impersonal, this company might cut off the humanness, the human beingness that is so important and is the heart of the company. Because at the end, the company started as a set of human beings with a nice vision, a nice mission, a nice project, and cannot be all this covered by technology. Technology is a tool that complements the human beings, does not replace the human being. They act alongside and can make human being more effective, more efficient, more productive, but the human being won't be replaced. Maybe in the future, maybe in a science fiction movie that we see in a couple of decades, but unlikely to happen because the human being is the core. And also the human being is irreplaceable in a way that the emotion, the heart, the connection, and the nation that we have another being that is like us, and we can connect and we can support them and we can understand how they think and how they feel. It's very difficult that AI can deal with this in the same way that the human being does.
What has been the most surprising discovery in your 30 years of consulting and researching?
The most surprising discovery is that the principle of a business success are obvious. Many companies might know them, but they keep on acting in a way that appears that they are ignoring this principle. So what I observe that many companies do not recognize the basic principle of business, that is treating everyone in a kind way, treating people in a generous way, bring about more generosity, bringing about support in the workplace and in relation to any stakeholder, bring about stronger relationship, higher profit, higher sales. And many companies believe that or act as they believe that the most important aspect are economic aspect of business. And this economic aspect are always supported by people. So what I've seen, I feel that this misunderstanding of companies that they do not recognize the human aspect of business is lack of awareness in a way that they're continually beset by tight deadlines, by multiple checks, by multitasking, and people working for this company don't take time to reflect about the obvious. That without people, you cannot succeed. Without a strong relationship, everything is short-lived and everything needs to be forced. I see some companies that use terms that I'm a bit in disagreement with. For example, customer retention. It's very well used in marketing, but I'm a marketer, but the idea is you can never retain customer. You can satisfy their needs. You can exceed their needs, means you can surprise them in a very positive way. You can adopt an attitude of service instead of an attitude of selling product. Service means you're trying to do the best for them, because when you do, they will obviously buy product from your company and generate profit. And well, by doing so, companies are obviously becoming more aware, but companies are not aware and tend to focus on the obvious. Okay, we need profit. We're profit-oriented organization. We need to get more sales. Yeah, but how you get more sales? Positive, strong, long-lasting relationship with stakeholders. So this is the most surprising principle that I observe over hundreds of companies, that is so obvious, is in your face. The concept of interdependence. Many companies do not understand that within the workplaces, you need all people cooperating. There is no one more important than others, because it's a keyboard of a computer. If there is a key missing, you cannot type well. So all of the keys are important. It's not that. So this is a nice metaphor, but all people are important. All stakeholders are important, and by recognizing that they're important, by satisfying their needs, all of their needs effectively on a regular basis, these people will be spontaneously on your side. And what I've seen, many companies expect this to come on their side without the company taking the initiative to build this strong relationship. And this is like a fallacy, because in practice, this will never happen. You cannot force customers to buy your product. You cannot force employees to stay in your company. Even you have a contract with this employee, can leave the company at any time. And you cannot force suppliers to stay with your company if you have agreement that are win-lose. You win at the expense of supplier. Lack of awareness is the most surprising thing that I observe in business. And this brings about all this problem and all the misunderstanding of companies excessively, or in some cases exclusively, focus on this aspect of business, profit, market share, and so on. I observe a group of companies that instead of focusing exclusively on this, they focus part of their energy on this qualitative aspect of business. They bring about, for example, some training to employees to how to treat customer in a kinder way. They try to teach these employees how to adopt an attitude of service, how to be the best salesperson with this customer, trying to identify their needs, try to provide this customer with advice, with some type of support. And also, if the company doesn't have the product that this customer has, this employee will be willing to recommend other companies that this customer can go and buy the product. What I observed, that there is a small group of companies that that obviously try to look for a balance between the quality aspect of business, camaraderie, compassion, kindness, support, generosity, gratitude, and the quantity aspect of business that are profit, market share, and also productivity and sales.
What role does cultural differences play in implementation of compassionate business practices internationally?
Yes, there are two main type of cultures. Very interesting question. This is not a common question that I hear frequently and very important. There are two type of cultures that are called collectivist cultures, where people are connected more to one another and groups are important, and cultures that are much more individualist. For example, US and UK are individualist. Cultures like Japan and China are in cultures that are collectivist. It's much easier to build a strong relationship with different stakeholders. And in some cases, in those cultures, to do business, people need to know each other personally first. For example, if a seller goes abroad, an exporter goes abroad to visit a potential importer, that is, for example, a country like China, before closing any agreement, before signing any contract, they will have to know each other on a personal level. Maybe some social meetings and social dinners to know each other, to know about their background, their history, and so on. And then if they know each other and they feel connected to one another, they might go ahead with the business condition and terms. Instead, other cultures like UK and American culture, they are much more individualist. And here in this type of culture, we have the saying of time is money, or we don't have to lose time. When you say time is money, this means that you don't care so much about relationship. Why? Because relationship take time, and take time to build, and take time to strengthen, and take time to brighten. So this means that you focus more on, okay, let's build this contract, let's finish this, close the deal, and so on. This is much more a transactional approach. In individualist culture tend to have a much more in this type of culture could be more challenging to adopt what we call a compassionate attitude. But we are all innately compassionate. We have to remember how to be compassionate, because it's not something that we need to learn from scratch. We are compassionate by nature. There are lots of experiments and research studies on babies and small children are kind to each other naturally. So then what happened? The idea, there are some nefarious ideas in the business environment and also in the workplace, like for example, we have to win at the expense of others, or the concept of competition. Competition means that one wins and the other one loses, but it's not necessarily true, because there are many successful examples of companies that were before competitors, and then they developed a strategic alliance and they cooperated with one another in a very successful way. But this concept of a win-lose agreement or zero-sum game where one wins at the expense of other makes it very difficult to adopt this compassionate attitude. Going back to the cultural aspect, individualist cultures still can adopt a compassionate attitude. Key concept is awareness. How people can become more aware? They have to stop, pause a bit during the day and reflect. Is there anyone that is challenged around me? Is there anyone that has a problem, a difficulty? Is there anyone that I can help? Because at the end, by helping them, I'm helping myself, because everything is interdependent. If there is an employee that doesn't feel well or feel unsupported, and this employee contributes to a project that we are all working, it will be a good idea to support this employee because it's necessary for our project. We need this employee for our project. But also you have to do this in a kind way, not in an interested way. But it's a very important reason to understand that interdependence means that we have to support one another. We're in the same boat. And what I was saying, that being aware is important. Many business environments do not allow people to be aware. I give you an example. I saw a company here that they have 8 hours a day. Employees are working 8 hours a day. They have 8 meetings a day. A meeting, 1 hour each meeting. So this means that employees don't have free time to eat, let's say lunch. How can employee be aware if they don't have time even to eat lunch? How can employee, they are overwhelmed by multiple projects, multiple deadlines, multitasking. How you can be aware? You are in a responsive way. You are in some cases, you are not even reflecting what you have to do. You are overwhelmed. How you can be aware if you cannot deal with your own issues? So instead, when companies give reasonable breaks, Some company even introduce a bit of playfulness in the workplace. I see that this is very common here in the UK. For example, employees during the lunch break, they give 1 hour so that they relax. They have some board games for employees to play, checker, chess. They have a ping pong table to relax, chill out. They have a nice garden for employee to get in contact with nature, what is very good for refreshing one's attention. This employee can reflect, can be more aware, can connect to others and talk about non-business topics. They can know each other in a much more personal level. And this will contribute positively to their work relationship. Why? Because at the end, it's the same person outside work and inside work. The difference is that inside work, they have roles and key and responsibility. But it's the same person. Before being an employee, they were a people. So this means that we don't have to forget that before the roles, they were already people. So when we connect on a much more personal level, and you allow these people to have breaks and be more aware and connect to one another, they are more prone to discover if people are in need, they need support, we can provide with some assistance and so on. And this happens with others too. They are more prone to assist us if they are given some free time. But also free time, according to research, I mentioned this in the book, allow the brain to relax and to be much and refresh the attention skills in a way that then when you take, for example, 5 to 10 minutes every hour, you tend to come back much more revitalized and tend to be more focused and tend to be more aware of very subtle details around. Instead, when you're continually on duty, this will be very difficult. You become you are prone to burnout, and how you can be connected to others if you cannot deal with your own issues.
Bruno, your life, your work, way you teach, the way you talk, it's a testament to the unique perspective you bring to running a business. In a world where dog eats dog and numbers are the only things that matter, and profitability and shareholders and keeping them happy is the most important thing, you bring a fresh perspective of focusing on the people that truly matter, that are first the people working for you and then the people we're serving. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to read your book and getting to know you a little bit and understand perspective that has brought you to provide your services to the world in this way. Any final words for our audience members?
Thank you very much for your kind words. Yes, I want to pose a few questions, a self-reflection question for the audience. How can I be? This question should be asked on a regular basis. Doesn't matter if you are an employee, CEO, or any level within the company. How can I be kinder to colleagues and also to other stakeholders on a regular basis? How can I be more generous and thankful and supportive with different stakeholders? These two questions are very important and they're very meaningful, because when people ask this question on a regular basis, especially at the beginning of the day, they broaden their awareness and they're more prone to support each other, and they're more prone to bring about this positive cycle of reciprocity, and they're more prone to contribute to the development of a psychologically safe workplace, and also to the building of strong relationship with other stakeholders such as customers, suppliers, business partners, and others.
Thank you so much, Bruno, for being on the show. It was a pleasure having you here. I hope to talk to you soon again.